Columbia University and Donald Trump have made a deal. As you know, President Trump has put a lot of pressure on the Ivy League schools since January concerning the anti-Semitism policies and the pro-Palestinian protests on their campus. Here we go. So Columbia University agrees to pay more than $220 million in a deal with Trump to restore federal funding. Columbia University announced on Wednesday it reached a deal. Under the agreement, the Ivy League school will pay a $200 million settlement over 3 years, the university said. It will also pay $21 million to resolve alleged civil rights violations against Jewish employees that occurred following the October 7th attack in 2023 when Hamas attacked Israel. This is in quotes. This agreement marks an important step forward after a period of sustained federal scrutiny and institutional uncertainty. So if you've seen anything in the news the last few months, you have seen President Trump sparring with these Ivy League schools, with Harvard, with Columbia. So far, what we've seen is him revoke a lot of these grants that were given to the university on an annual basis. And a lot of these things haven't been resolved yet. This is actually the first university to make some sort of settlement, some sort of agreement with the White House. We'll see. We'll get into what this agreement actually means. The school had been threatened with the potential loss of billions of dollars in government support, including more than $400 million in grants canceled earlier this year. The administration pulled the funding because of what it described as the university's failure to squelch anti-Semitism on campus during the Israel-Hamas war. So Columbia University had a lot of money going at stake, a lot of money. Columbia has since agreed to a series of demands laid out by the Republican administration, including overhauling the university students' disciplinary process and applying a contentious federally endorsed definition of anti-Semitism not only to teaching but to a disciplinary committee that has been investigating students critical of Israel. According to Shipman, Wednesday's agreement, which does not include an admission of wrongdoing, codifies those reforms while preserving the university's autonomy. So the university is saying, hey, we will agree that anti-Semitism is wrong. We'll make sure that there are policies in place so that anti-Semitism is not expressed to the students, to our faculty. In the agreement, they're not saying, hey, we did anything wrong. We're just saying, hey, we're going to make a process forward. Going forward, there won't be any wrongdoing, and the university is going to have its own autonomy. So they're going to be able to make their own decisions. No one's going to be looking over their shoulder. Well, we'll see about that. Here we go. So the Education Secretary, Linda McMahon, called the deal a seismic shift in our nation's fight to hold institutions that accept American taxpayer dollars accountable for anti-Semitic discrimination and harassment. So the President Trump and his administration, Linda McMahon, is definitely using this as a time to say, look at us, look what we did. Is it actually a win? We'll get into it. Columbia's reforms are a roadmap for elite universities that wish to regain the confidence of the American public by renewing their commitment to truth-seeking, merit, and civil debate, McMahon said in a statement. So obviously, they are looking as this settlement with Columbia to be sort of the first domino down. They want to see a deal done with Harvard and all the other Ivy League schools, and they want this to be the example. As part of the agreement, Columbia agreed to a series of changes previously announced in March, including reviewing its Middle East curriculum to make sure that it's comprehensive and balanced, and appointing new faculty to its Institute for Israel and Jewish Studies. It also promised to end programs that promote unlawful efforts to achieve race-based outcomes, quotes, diversity targets, or similar efforts. The university will also have to issue a report to monitor, assuring that its programs do not promote unlawful DEI goals. So what are the effects of this settlement agreement on Columbia University? Here's their perspective here on CNN. Shipman noted in a message to the Columbia community on Wednesday evening that the financial pressures on the school extended beyond the $400 million funding freeze. We have seen not only $400 million in federal grants frozen, but also the majority of our $1.3 billion a year in federal funding placed on hold. The prospects of that continuing indefinitely, along with the potential loss of top scientists, would jeopardize our status as a world-leading research institution, she said in a letter. So Columbia University was facing a huge hammer of a $1.3 billion every single year. They had to get something done. They had to get some sort of agreement yes, we'll do this, we'll fix that. But they didn't have to say, hey, we did anything wrong in the past, but we will make certain policy changes for the future to make sure we don't do anything wrong. In her first interview since the deal was announced, Shipman framed the funding freeze as an existential threat to the university that needed to be resolved, saying finding an agreement with the White House was the responsible path. Totally understandable. A university is just like a business. You've got, revenue, expenses, and their expenses were going out of the roof when they didn't have the revenue of these grants coming in. This resolution is really going to allow us to turn a page on a period of deep instability for our institution. Shipman defended the school from accusations that it capitulated to the Trump administration. In quotes, the narrative that paints that this is a kind of binary situation, courage versus capitulation, is just wrong. It's too simplistic. This was a really, really complex problem, and I will argue over and over again that choosing to listen, choosing to try to solve the problem with everything that we had at stake is not capitulation. It was extraordinarily difficult. Here are some of the pressures that Columbia University has been facing here in just the last couple weeks. 2 weeks ago, here's Fox News. Israeli Columbia professor leaves school over failure to address anti-Israel protest. I can confirm that I've decided to leave Columbia, and the university's failure to take the anti-Jewish, anti-Israel, and anti-American protests seriously is the reason. Columbia leadership has failed, the faculty has lost its moral compass, and too many of my colleagues just look the other way. He added, I don't trust the acting president, the university's leadership, or the entire board of trustees to do the right thing, and I don't see my colleagues stepping up to hold them accountable. I wouldn't advise anyone to come work here, so what's the point of staying? In the future, we will see what happens. Are these policy changes the kind of changes that the Trump administration wants? Is it going to be followed through? So what do you think? Is Trump right? Is Columbia right? Is this settlement a good thing? Are these policy changes a good thing? And will the other universities like Harvard and Yale fall in line as well? I want to know your opinion. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe. I'll see you for next time.